Yo, just quickly, I started working on this a couple of days ago because I've been kind of ill recently. So I actually recorded it before Jack Frags did his video, so some of it kind of touched on stuff that he talked about, but these thoughts are entirely my own, not influenced by any other creators. Just thought I'd make that point because some people are likely going to go, oh, you said these were your thoughts and Jack said them or whatever. So yeah, there you go. Enjoy. Alright, welcome to the video. I'm GetGoodGuy, of course, and today we're kind of tackling this Battlefield 3 Remastered stuff, but in a different way. As per usual, I don't just want to parrot what's being said elsewhere. I know everyone's jumping on this within the community right now for something to talk about in Battlefield, and I don't blame them at all, but nobody really knows anything right now about whether it's going to happen or not, and if they do, they're certainly not going to say it. So we're not just going to go over that speculation of whether it's happening or not. This is more of a conversation piece. It's not scripted. I've just got bullet points. Because I want your input as well today. I want to cover the other issues and hear what you think and why. So right now, if you want, get into the comments, let me know. Battlefield 3 Remaster, do you want it or not? How would you like it to be different or not? Pros and cons, when would you like to see it, etc. Get down there, let me know. Now we're starting off with footage of some BF3 trailers from way back, and that'll be followed by some BF5 footage as per usual, as it is after all the current game still, believe it or not, and informs quite a lot of what we're going to talk about. So the big main point to hit obviously is nostalgia. Nostalgia is a powerful thing. You hear people say about a remaster for an old game, you forget all the bad stuff and everyone just goes, oh yeah, let's go and do that. I liked this about the game, and that's all people really remember. But it was like what, 8 years ago now? And so times have changed. Without doubt, first-person shooters as well as games in general and the community as a whole have moved on, whether you realize it or not. And so I would say that a Battlefield 3 remaster would not be worthwhile in place of a fresh new title. It will be a step backwards for DICE after the, let's say, mishap that was BF5, to then just do a remaster of an old title and that's their next game. Thankfully, all of the information, whether it be that we are going to get BF3 or not, seems to point towards it not replacing any new title. So that's a good thing in my opinion. But then of course there's whether it's a good idea or not, full stop. Just quickly though, before I get into that part, I've been mentioning this in my videos recently and the support has been insane. I'm trying to hit 50k on the channel. While there's not much to cover in Battlefield, so if you want to help out or you like the content or both, ideally, hit that subscribe button if you haven't done before. It would be massively appreciated. Thank you so much for joining us. So yeah, is it actually a good idea? Well, it seems questionable in terms of timing, considering the work that goes into it. If we are going to get a remaster of that game, you have to consider whether they planned for some time to end BF5 and didn't let on, or whether they planned all along way back to do this and they just kept it a big secret. And there's that Battlefront 2 was ended, so maybe it has something to do with that, or maybe that's entirely for Battlefield 6. My point being, the timelines don't really add up, unless some things have kind of been kept from us here and there regarding BF5. I don't want to drop anyone in it too much. Maybe this was the plan all along, but it must hopefully have been considered by DICE that this will then cannibalize the community to some extent for BF5. Either it's going to just split them, or it's going to take everyone away from BF5, more than likely I would say, or a lot of people, or it's going to just flop because people stay with BF5. That's the one I can't see being very realistic, but I thought I'd mention it as a possible eventuality just in case. But either way, that certainly would mark the end of BF5 and new content, which I think is a certainty anyway, but it would put to bed this petition for new content, which I don't support. If you do still want new content for BF5, then that's up to you, I don't blame you. But either way, it seems highly unlikely, as I covered in my last video. And it must be said that a lot of the rumours, whether true or not getting into the speculation aspect of it, haven't mentioned the current consoles. It's more so been pointing towards the next gen stuff. So perhaps the Battlefield 3 title to run alongside whatever the next Battlefield title actually is. Similar to what we saw with Call of Duty and Modern Warfare Remastered. Now either way, that would leave us with something to actually play rather than a vast space of time with nothing, which is kind of unusual for Battlefield, because if we don't get some kind of thing to drop in before the next big title, some kind of remaster such as this, we're looking at a year-ish to maybe a year and a half without fresh content for the title, with already droves of people switching across to different games out there. In my free time, I'm back playing Destiny 2, for example. Masses of people playing Warzone, or just leaving for entirely different genres. And I have seen some people suggest that it's the right thing to do to get out a remaster, to try to cling on to some kind of community, some kind of engagement, some kind of support. But what about the game itself? Because over 8 years, a lot can change. You look at what we have now and what we had back then, and it's vastly different. A core thing being gunplay, of course. In different Battlefield games, we've seen different things being relied upon or heavily incentivized. Some of them being laser shooters, some of them having vast spread mechanics, some of them heavily leaning into microbursting, all that kind of stuff. What would we have now from a BF3 remaster? Would you want it, and this is a direct question to you by the way, would you want it to just be a replica gunplay wise of BF3? Or would you like to see it be more like BF5 as we have it now? Or maybe you prefer BF1 or some kind of mix of them? Do we get tweaks to it? Or do you keep that entirely the same and just revamp the environments, the graphical fidelity and such like? And it's not just gunplay, it's movement as well. Do you keep the improved movement mechanics? Lots of abilities to vault over things and through things. How does this then alter how the maps play? And does that mean you have to then heavily alter the maps themselves? Does this go so far that it's a heavily altered version of BF3? Why am I bringing all that up? Well, because it almost certainly won't be the same as the BF3 you remember in a lot of ways. Therefore, will that be okay? Or conversely, if it is kept pretty much entirely the same, will that be okay? Are you then just playing a game from 8 years ago that looks better? What I'm honing in on is that you definitely won't be able to please everybody, that's for sure. If they did a BF3 remaster, some people would complain when they get it, whether it's too similar or not similar enough, and that's just sometimes the nature of doing a remaster. And for some people, that will then lead them to say BF5 was bad, now BF3 remaster is bad, and so on. Yet, it must be said that it's much safer for DICE to do an in-between title like this. If they were to put out a remaster before the next new big Battlefield title, it gives them a little bit more leeway, a bit more space to breathe. There's not as heavy an expectation on it. And nostalgia does again come into play. It gives them a chance to pull back public favour, to start to turn around that PR and their reputation, as long as we still do get a new Battlefield title not too long after. But of course, it's still not a great thing if it turns out to be bad. In fact, it would be pretty horrendous for DICE still. Now some will ask, well, why would they do a remaster right before another new game? Well, perhaps they're just willing to sacrifice some things along the way to try to turn around the sinking ship that Battlefield is right now. And I don't have an issue with that. Throw everything that you can at the community to get them to favour you and support you again. In fact, we've been missing that kind of attitude for a long time. Keeping in mind that this does still bring with it all the pitfalls of any remaster. Look at Modern Warfare Remastered, for example, which some people called the worst or most boring Call of Duty they'd been at the time. Even after a huge amount of hype about it coming back, I don't think it ended up being how a lot of people imagined it being, whether it just be through execution or just that nostalgia didn't pull them through. Or Halo Master Chief Collection, if it was called that, something along those lines. A lot of hype again, but it got panned to begin with due to, I think, a lot of matchmaking issues. DICE are prone to getting some things wrong pretty catastrophically. They can't afford to do that again, even with just a remastered title. And so you've got the next question, should some things just be left in the past? How often do remasters really come off looking good rather than just another cash grab? I of course can't answer that, but it's always relevant to the discussion, as well as the idea of splitting resources again. Have DICE been working on this for some time, or is this a panic station kind of mode right now? And where I've said, now that you've made the decision to not support BF5 anymore, don't do a U-turn and split your resources again between that and the next Battlefield, I hope they're not now splitting resources between a remaster and BF6 in a way that could hurt the next Battlefield game. I truly hope if we are getting a remaster, it's been in the works and the necessary processes have taken place and are still taking place. That said, I think most of the community would be behind a remaster of this nature because they're just looking for something to play within the franchise. They're looking for a bounce back. They're looking for something to grab their attention. They're looking to escape from the negativity of BF5 overall. Not everyone, but the vast majority. And of course, this will mean more YouTube content. So for creators, it's a great thing. And creators are part of what keeps Battlefield going. As are creators for almost any game now. It's a circle, a cycle if you will. Game is released, creators cover it, it builds hype, puts more eyes on the title, helps the game to grow, and the cycle continues. Now if the game is bad, that's where you hit a problem, as creators then will say it's bad and you get the opposite thing happen a lot of the time. I really am stressing that DICE need to nail whatever their plans are. And obviously we don't know if this is even credible for sure right now. As I've said repeatedly, I'm not getting into that speculation. I don't think that really adds much to the discussion. I know we've got vast amounts of creators and public figures discussing that right now. I'm going to leave that to them and cover these other more niche specific issues for if we get the game or if it's even a good idea. And so yes, please let me know what you think. Part of this video is listening to me, the other part is giving your opinion, and then even more so, read what is down there, have relevant and respectful discussions. Let's create a hub of feedback and see what each person thinks, the diversity of thought, and the likelihood that something good comes out of this. And so that is my rundown of this this topic today, hopefully hitting some points you've not heard elsewhere. Let me hear yours. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. If you didn't, maybe a dislike. Again, subscribe if you're new to help me hit my current 50k target, and all the links to my social media, including Patreon, can be found in the description and my pinned comment, where if you do support me on Patreon, you'll join the board of awesomeness sitting right here with all the epic people that already do so. They're all absolute heroes, and I love them all deeply and of course often. So yep, links to that in the description and my pinned comments, and with all that said, I'm GetGoodGuy, and I'll see you next time. Laters. They genuinely need to just pick a path and stick to it now. Now that also isn't to say I assume the next Battlefield will be good just because they've decided to take this current path.